Hello, my name is Darrell Keith Harris, and we're here today on Finding Wisdom TV with Linda Singh, and I have a really great show for you here today. We have Mr. Bobby Muniz, who has a great script here. He has a great film. We have a great story. Mr. Muniz,
Yes.
in a nutshell, let's start it this way. Tell me about your film.
Well, you want to know how I started? What gave me the idea?
I want to know how you came from an abused child on the Lower East Side to what I met 20 minutes ago. How did this happen?
Wow. Wow, that's going to be a long story by itself. But I'll tell you how it started. Actually, as I was growing up, I was a person that was abused quite a bit, and I had run away. And when I ran away, I there was this one time that my father actually broke my nose, and I left, and I knew I wasn't going to come back.
How old were you at this time?
Actually, I was actually 10 years old. 10 years old, I left the house, and I never came back. And I was looking, as I was running away, my father was chasing me. And I was looking for a doorway, some type of a door in the neighborhood. At least got to be open, but everything was closed. So there was this nightclub, and the nightclub was called the 82 Club. It was the one most famous club in New York City. And I ran down there, and everybody that was down there working, they were in tuxedos, you know. It was a big cabaret. And a matter of fact, there was quite a bit of famous people down there as well.
This was in the 70s, correct?
That was actually, wow, in the 70s.
I remember
actually,
that.
Late, it was 69, 70s.
Yeah.
Within that era.
Late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
I remember that. I remember that club.
Yeah, and that club was very famous. And actually, the owner came out and told my father, "You touch this kid, you know, I'll
Wow.
kill you."
That's
know?
great.
Just
That's
like
great.
that, you touch this kid, I'll kill you. So he took me in, and he said, "I'm going to keep him." Yeah, so I worked, slept, and ate there for about 10 years. And I met the most famous, put me through school.
He put you through school.
Yes.
So this guy was an angel.
Yes, actually he was. I considered him from that point on my stepfather. And he always told me, I don't want you with these guys. And some of the people there, I guess, was like mob related, you know, so to speak. Everybody was down there. It was like the biggest mob hangout in the city. And he didn't want me with these people. So he goes, remember one thing, watch things happen, make things happen, but never ask what happened, you know? And there was one time, you know, since I was a minor,
You're right.
you know, I couldn't go actually into the club because I was a minor.
And
you know?
that was safe.
And I would say he always kept me in the kitchen, studio back there. It was nice. He fixed up everything really nice for me. He really loved me. He really cared for me. And he seen, I don't know, something in me that I didn't see in myself at that time because I was despaired. You know, my mother was over there. I can imagine what my mother was going through.
Right.
You know, and my other two brothers.
Right.
My younger brother was drinking since he was 6 years old. He was like his beer buddy. And until this day, he's been affected. You know? Other than that, he was good to me. He put me through school. I always had to go to school and work. But I was never a child. He always treated me like an adult.
How has this, it sounds to me like you almost were saved because you somehow managed to attain a positive role model who cared about you, who told you the right things. Has this affected you towards wanting to be this for others?
Yeah, but the whole thing is that then there was a thing about, you know, money. And
Yes.
and I was going to school, and I mean, he was paying
Are
me.
we talking elementary school, high school?
Yeah. I never went to college.
Okay.
I never went to college. No, not at all.
But you were in elementary school at the time
Right.
when the angel took you in.
Right. Let's call him the angel.
Let's
That's
call him the
a
angel.
good name. But I always was led. I don't know because that's all I knew. But he was living in Connecticut. I was living down the 82 Club, and he would come down, let's say, on a Wednesday, then stay there till Sunday, then he's gone again, you know? And he worked hard. He owned actually 17 speakeasy before Prohibition. This
Wow.
gentleman, yes, the Angel. 17 speakeasy before Prohibition. So you're talking about when he took me in, he was already in his 70s. I was only 10. And then when he passed away, it really bothered me.
How long ago did he pass away, Mr. Munoz?
Well, at least when I was 18, 8 years later, you know, I was 10. Yeah, about that time, I was like 18, you know, and there was one scene down the 82 Club that I was having some milk and cookies, actually. I was 12 years old, watching TV, minding my own business, and these two guys come in, and they started fighting. One guy threw the other guy on the floor, and the other guy said, "Shoot me." And the other person, like, nonchalant, very cool, "You want me to shoot you?" He took out his gun and shot him twice in the neck.
While
And
you were sitting there at 12
sitting
years
there
old.
like if it was like a regular day. I shot him twice in the neck, and I was right there. And what I did, I took my milk and one cookie. I just turned around, took 2 steps, thinking that he's going to shoot me. And he didn't. And he let me walk out. He looked at me in the face. He let me walk out. And the first 2 officers from the 9th Precinct, because the 82 Club was on 4th Street, right off 2nd, they came down the 82 Club, and they took a handkerchief, and they wrapped it around the person's neck, the victim actually, and put him in the squad car and sent him to Bellevue Hospital. And he lived.
He lived.
He lived. God thank God for that.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
I was talking to a young man, I believe his name is Carlos. He came in with you.
Yes.
Okay, it was obvious to me that this young man looks up to you a great deal. Is this something that is, I'm guessing, is this something that you want to take the place of the Angel so that other young Latin or whatever young men will have a chance to be a Bobby Munoz instead of another number in Rahway Prison?
Carlos is a great guy. Very good guy. I've seen there's a lot of good in him, and I've seen him from day one. I I try to read everybody as I go along. You know, the character, you know, the personality, and so on. And I always want to become one of those people on TV, one of those profilers. You know, that could actually get to know a person by the moment that you're with them. And I got to meet this gentleman, and Carlos had a lot of good in him, and I want to help him out. And actually, me helping him, I learned from him, actually. And
Well, that's the best thing about teaching. Do you intend for this film, a Lower East Side Story, to do anything for the youth in New York?
well, that story, like I was telling my writer, I'm the storyteller, the creator of the story, and my writer is Chris Fredericks.
Okay, Chris Fredericks.
Chris Frederick is a person that they used to fly him down to L.A.
Okay.
and interviewed, you know, he sat down in the studio and interviewed Will Smith, John Travolta, Nicolas Cage,
Okay.
Antonio Banderas, even Robert Williams on live TV. And he promotes, and I knew him for many years. But he gave me a lot of inspiration. He tells me, "Bobby, you got a great story here. You should do something with this," you know. And I waited, and I decided to do it. There was one day I went to my mother's house after so many years, and I saved every newspaper clipping that I can save with everybody that I know.
Okay.
And I actually didn't put it out there myself. Actually, the newspaper, the media, corroborates everything that I've been through,
Okay.
and my friends been through as well. People I grew up with, they went to the dark side, but they were still my friends.
Right.
You know, if they're gonna be after them or they are murderers, that's something else. But you know, that's their business. But I am not gonna cooperate and go and cooperate with the state prosecutor whatsoever
Right.
to lock up somebody that I just happen to grow up with.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen. Right.
No.
Judge not.
You know.
Right.
Right. And as far as the story, I want to send a message on what not to do.
You really want to send a message on what not to do.
Right.
Okay. Leave them with their free will. Let them make their choices. You had talked to me earlier a lot about, it was important to you that the youth of New York, the youth of America, the youth of the world have a dream, especially youth that were born in your situation. Could you perhaps elaborate on how you achieved? I've been a filmmaker for 40 years, so I
Oh,
know
okay.
how much it must have taken to get it from a script or an idea or concept to you sitting before me.
Well, Chris Frederick had a lot of inspiration, and I was telling him, man, he's a Christian
Okay.
person as well.
Chris Fredericks.
Chris Frederick
Okay.
is, I love the guy. The guy's great.
Okay.
And he taught me a lot of stuff on what not to do.
He's the one
came
who
up-
actually wrote this?
Yeah, he actually wrote the whole thing.
A Lower East Side Story?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was the guy that would just pace back and forth, and I go into this trance, and I came out with I tried not to leave anything out, you know. And then he had these sessions, one after another, one after another. It actually took 2 years to do this, you know.
It's a lot of incredible detail in there. There are sentences in there that made me almost weep. There was one in particular, and if you don't mind me reading
Oh,
from
please,
it.
by
There
all
was a
means.
sentence. There was a sentence in particular that if I was an intelligent person, I would have had ready. But if I was an intelligent person, I'd be somewhere else. I'd be someone else. Anyway, you are asking your father, you're 6 years old and you're asking, what could I have possibly done to deserve my father to walk in? To describe that scene for me. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, I never did like my father, even the way he was treating me as I was growing up. And you could tell, even if you couldn't talk that much because of a young age. Please,
I found it.
go ahead.
This is Bobby. This is Mr. Muniz talking. I never liked my father. All I used to get from him was beatings and beatings and beatings as a child from the age of 6 years old. One time he opened up a huge cut on my chin with a metal rod, and I didn't even do anything to deserve it. How did it feel to you when you hear that sentence? What are your thoughts?
At one time, I stood angry for many years. Many years I stood angry. I wanted my father dead. You know, in every way, I would not even flinch. And actually, when I hear about that, I remembered. And I said, one day I'm going to grow up, I'm going to actually hold a vendetta on him some way or another. But it doesn't make me any worse than he is for me
No.
going after him. And this is what I want to send a message to, because nature does take its course.
Yes.
It does. It really does. I don't wish nobody bad, but everybody, when they trouble like that, you know, they got to seek for help, just like I did. I seek for help. I went to therapy. They got that anger out of me. They broke me down. They built me back up.
Therapy did this?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. A matter of fact, when I got arrested, you know, it was mandatory that I was supposed to go to therapy.
Okay.
And then I did that, and that person became one of my closest friends. And then I went voluntary for the next 2 years.
Would you use the term now, looking back at it in retrospect, that maybe instead of arrested, you were one of the people that were actually rescued?
Yes, I would. I consider that very much. Actually, whatever I went through, it saved my life.
Right.
Actually saved my life. Yeah, I was rescued. I was grateful, and and that's the message I would have said on what not to do. You don't. Prison is not a place to be.
Let's say, for instance, there's a young man or a young lady sitting right in front of us
Okay.
who basically is going through now or went through recently what you went through. What would you say to this person? How would you want your film to affect them? And what do you think they need in order to go from where they are to something similar to what you are, to what the man I saw walk in the door really wasn't what I expected from having read the script. How